Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Angelo, for those kind words. Angelo, you just tell us that this world is a world of complexities, that our time, particularly for the time being, obviously, is a time of complexities. But I think that much more than that, this world, this time, are a time and a world of opportunities, and that we have to catch them. Remember General MacArthur? Oh, I think it's not, yeah. Remember General MacArthur. I shall return. 1941, December. The Japanese attack the Philippines. US General MacArthur tries to defend the island. 1942, March. After struggling against great odds to save the Philippines from Japanese conquest, MacArthur leaves the island by boat. Deeply disappointed, he issued a statement in which he promised this man and the people of the Philippines, I shall return. The promise would become his mantra during the next 2.5 years, and he would repeat it again and again in public appearances. I shall return. 1944, October the 20th. MacArthur waded ashore onto the Philippine Islands. That day, he made a radio broadcast in which he declared, people of the Philippines, I have returned. MacArthur is a man of will, he is a man of success. Remember Marshal Foch, if I can make it. No, baby. I don't know why it doesn't work very well. Excuse me, I'm to check something. Okay, we see. Remember Marshal Foch. Marshal Foch, who commanded more than 5 million men in 1918, is first and foremost a man of will. 1914, 6th of September. At the peak of the first Battle of the Marne, magnificent in pugnacity and calm, Foch shoots out that order that now belongs to history. My right wing is broken down. My left wing has given up. But everything is okay. We attack. 1918, June. 4 years later, Foch is the commander-in-chief of all the Allied forces. The German army is pushing again toward Paris, and Paris is bombarded every night. Foch must stop this mortal danger. He galvanizes all the forces, the British, the Americans, the French, the Russians, the Italians, and thanks to him, the attack is broken. In his memoirs, he said, I know only one thing, I know to will. This great leader knew only one thing, to will. In this tough world, in constant evolution, the only thing that produces success, that's will. If we know what we will. What is the reality of this world where we are all need to be effective? As you said, Angelo, this environment we work in is characterized by the highest degree of uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's impossible to predict second and third order effects of our decision, and we are, at every hour, facing both internal and external complexities. Why? The first reason is the freedom of man. This environment is first characterized by the opposition of liberties, human liberties, that of our rivals, obviously, but also that of our colleagues and of our subordinates. This freedom is the first reason of uncertainty. This freedom is the first reason of interactivity that makes everything uncertain. But this freedom is also the best solution to uncertainty to catch opportunities. Fog of war. Our world is also a world always covered by what Clausewitz, the great Prussian strategist, called the fog of war. Between the eyes of the decision maker and the field of action, there will always be a layer of fog that will be never lifted. Friction. Our world is a world where friction, another Clausewitzian concept, states that no action, no decision develops as initially expected. Listen to Clausewitz. Everything in human action is very simple, but the simplest thing is difficult. The difficulties accumulate and end by producing a kind of friction that is inconceivable unless one has experienced human action. Particularly, friction distinguishes real war from war on paper. This reminds us the old distinction, philosophical distinction, between the map and the territory. We have no choice but to prepare our strategies on the map with a very imperfect knowledge of reality, but to execute it on the territory. And this territory has two characteristics. The first is that it turns out every second to be dramatically different from the poor paper representation we had of it. The second is that it is, as I said, interactive, populated by free wills, whose majority seeks precisely to defeat our plans. Added to this is the interconnection of world. It has become a system where any crisis is a total crisis in the sense that Clausewitz gave to total war. In a new way, the current coronavirus crisis is absolutely total, concerning all parts of human activities: economic, financial, health, social, military, cyber. It ranges from the individual to the planetary, and from the existential to the political. The first consequence of these characteristics is that in war, as in every human action, nothing repeats ever. No habit, no universal process produces success. Charles de Gaulle states it clearly. Action in the context of war is always incidental. That means that it is not necessary. Action is just the succession of human decision taking within a certainty. So he said, action is always incidental. That it is to say that it always appears in an expected manner. It features an infinity of variables. It has no precedent. Action in the real world has no precedent. The second consequence, obviously, is that no plan ever works out. That's true since God made wars. Thucydides said in the Peloponnesian War 2,500 years ago, war never develops at all according to a fixed plan. This is an old thing. And Napoleon, the greatest strategist ever, coined it. I have conceived many plans, but I was never free to execute any of them. And the great Prussian General von Moltke, as you know, repeated later the same rule, which is the motto of pragmatic men, no plan survives the contact with the enemy. So what do we do? The same rules apply again and again. Rule number 1. Know where you want to go, know clearly what you want to achieve and want it. We need to have a vision to focus on, to focus all our energies on, and to succeed beyond uncertainty and difficulty. We all remember the vision of John Kennedy. I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely on Earth. And the US did it because the nation's will was focused on this aim. We, the military, call that an intention, a clear, short and written sentence beginning by "my will is." So my will and the will of all my subordinates must be focused on that aim. Remember, there is a very strong link between success, vision, and action. Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time. Vision with action can change the world. Rule number 2, there is no truth in strategy. Strategy cannot establish the truth, because in strategy at least, there are only truths, but all partial, relative, and temporary. Because every strategic truth is linked to a context, at a time, and to a judgment. Any strategic decision can only be a matter of arbitration, taken in conscience, not in science. And therefore, any strategic decision is always questionable. Rule number 3, innovation, innovation, innovation. The biggest pitfall of good solutions is that we stay attached to them when they are only worth at one given moment and for unique circumstances. The strategic space is always new, and therefore, yesterday's excellent solutions are usually the faults of tomorrow. So, the only good strategic attitude that is worth is that of innovation and creativity. Strategy is always about innovation. Strategy is always about creativity, or it is not. It's always a matter for the strategist to work out new solutions for a world that has never existed before. Rule number 4, adaptation, adaptation, adaptation. As no strategy will develop as planned, the strategist must be aware of the absolute need to create the conditions for continuous adaptations of ways and means. It is therefore up to him, first, to put in place a permanent piloting system to guide from the highest level the adaptation of the plan. And secondly, to organize the coupling between the strategic and the operational in order to allow their co-evolution. With the military, we know that all defeats are based on just one fact, the decoupling from the strategic level to the operational level. Initiative, initiative, initiative. This is the rule number 5. We have to use the will, the initiative and the creativity of our subordinates to adapt our orders to the reality, to make the plan work, or more precisely, to achieve our aim in spite of the plan, to achieve our aim in spite of the plan. So we need to give them a lot of room for initiative. Charles de Gaulle stated, action is all about people amid circumstances. And everybody has to adapt plans which evolve given unexpected circumstances. So the duty of any strategist is to realize an environment in which everybody wants to use all his capacities and all its ingenuity for the success of the mission. This takes us directly to mission command. What is the essence of this philosophy of command? You know that the first guy to use it was Napoleon. What is the essence of this philosophy of command? Mission command is based on two key ideas. First, people are the best tool for adaptation to uncertainty. And secondly, it is indispensable to trust them. Mission command is fundamentally a decentralized style of command relying on initiative, the acceptance of responsibility, and mutual trust. The superior trusts his subordinate to act within the commander's intent and to act sensibly in the circumstances in which he finds himself. 4. These circumstances are rarely those the superior envisaged when composing his orders. Conversely, the subordinate trusts that the superior has given him the direction and resources appropriate to the job, and that the superior will support him in exercising his initiative. This contract of trust is essential, and the superior should state a minimum of control measures so as not to constrain his subordinates' freedom of action. At war, to catch opportunities, the least you order, the best you command. Listen to Admiral Horatio Nelson giving his plan to his subordinates when on the eve of the Battle of Trafalgar. I don't like it very much, but it's a good example. Prior to the battle, Nelson gathered his band of brothers together for one last conference, where he laid out his scheme of maneuver, and he said, I give you my plan of attack, but is it to place you perfectly at ease regarding my intention, but to give you full scope to your judgment for carrying them to effect? And he added, no man has more confidence in another than I have in you. This attitude is emblematic of mission command, which is commanded by the intention of the mission as a freedom of action. The point is obviously not to develop a kind of passive obedience, but to develop active obedience. This expression was coined by Marshal Foch, and this active obedience is, according to Marshal Foch, the consequence of a permanent call to initiative. And we must not confuse command and control, and we did for long, and we call still now for command and control C2. But we have to know that control is exactly the contrary of command. Command is avoiding prescribing everything. Orders need to create incentive, orientate, guide, and frame the initiative, while creating the condition for its optimal expression. The point is to promote creativity by using command relationships that are creative and constructive, not dictatorial and demotivating. The point is not to detail the processes, but what is not to be done. Define the mission and give room for the autonomy of your subordinates. What expresses this spirit the best is the motto of General von Moltke, as you know, one of the greatest military thinkers of the last 2 centuries. Another should say all the things that a subordinate cannot decide on its own, and only that. Orders must be designed to protect the freedom of action. And you surely know that the reason why the German military was the strongest in Europe during almost 1 century was based only on these two quotes. No plans survive contact with the enemy. And the second one is this one: an order should say all the things that a subordinate cannot decide on his own, and only that. So why this German military, at the tactical level at least, was so good? Because they were, it was possible for them to conjugate at best the most strict discipline concerning the aim itself at all levels, but conjugate this strict discipline with the greatest freedom to determine the ways to achieve it. Facing it, as you know, exactly 80 years ago, exactly we are on the 13th of May, the French army was at that time ruled by the details with no spirit of initiative at all. Obviously, it was the German military that won this war, this battle. Who better than Charles de Gaulle describes this style of command? Listen to him. The only way that leads to entrepreneurial is decentralization, fixing the goal to be reached, motivating emulation, judging the performance. This is what the top authority will commit to for each unit. But as far as the way to deliver is concerned, anyone should be the master of its own decision. Charles de Gaulle is right. Tell your subordinates what effect they are to achieve and why. Do not fall into the trap of detailing how subordinates are to achieve their goals. This is their business. That is exactly the way of thinking of General Patton, as you know, the great US cavalry officer. He said, tell your men what to do, not how. You will be surprised by their genius. I like very much what King Frederick the Great told one of his subordinates who, following his orders exactly, without adapting them to the evolving realities, almost produced a disaster. At the end of the Battle of Lutzen, December the 5th, 1787, during the 7th Year War, he called him and said, "You have to know, Captain, that I made you an officer for you to know when you have to disobey." Or what General de Gaulle said about General Leclerc. I think that General Leclerc and General de Gaulle are the two greatest French generals of World War II. And the first said about the second, this general is a great general because he obeyed each of my orders. And he added, obviously, particularly those I never gave him. Napoleon to rule long before. A subordinate is obliged to carry out an order to the letter only if the one who gave it is next to him when he gives the order. All this means that a good military order must be an interpretable order, not in its purpose, of course, but in its modalities, to allow permanent adaptation to circumstances and the seizing of any opportunity that can arise. To summarize, the way all of us need to produce leadership and effectiveness in the real world is first to remember the sentence of Rudyard Kipling. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. Because only the collective, the sense of belonging, can produce the trust and commitment necessary for strategic effectiveness. An effective operational unit is all about innovation and creativity. And as you know, innovation and creativity are sports. They're sports of mass. But you don't win in any sports of mass if you are not following some clear rules and deploy some eminent qualities. 4 rules to summarize. First is coherence. This is Montgomery. Know what you want and say it. Say it clearly from the top of the bottom. For that, have synthetic and a clear intention, a clear vision. Clarity of intention is an essential ingredient to the success of the team. Only a clear vision, a clear intention can federate with and make them converge on the critical objective. Work on communication between management layers for common understanding. Unity of effort can only come from the clear lead and sense of purpose. At the end of this process, you will produce a shared understanding of the objective. Cohesion. Work again and again on reinforcing the links between people and within teams. Work again and again on esprit de corps and team spirit. Work on solidarity and interdependence. Finally, develop a feeling of individual responsibility toward the collective project. This is the aim. Develop this feeling of individual responsibility. Respect and like your subordinates, they will give you that back 100 times. Consensus. Adhesion equals engagement with equals active contribution. Conviction and true participation develop commitment and willingness. You need to promote freedom of thought and reject a single mindset. Push the production of out-of-the-box ideas and accept their expression. So you'll get consensus. Confidence. Trust is one of the cornerstones of leadership and management. Confidence is the condition for initiative, thus for adaptation and seizing of opportunities. Establish a global climate of shared trust and tolerance. Always remember, the first responsibility of the leader is to build trust and confidence. Never more than today, we need clarity of leadership, clarity of intent, and the associated freedom to act. You know perfectly the qualities your command is expecting from you. I'll just mention 2 of them. They are paramount. Courage first. Courage to have your own ideas and to express them firmly. Courage to undertake and courage to persevere in spite of the difficulties, to overcome them. Courage to take risks. There is no success when no risk is taken. Courage and dedication, secondly. Dedication to your institution and dedication to the mission. Nothing is of greater importance than the mission, as we know with the military. Success of the mission needs absolutely all your creativity and the addition not to the letter, but to the spirit of the mission. What would I say to conclude? The strategist should not imagine for a second that knowledge and anticipation will be enough to prevent any unforeseen. For him, it is a question of building and preserving the material and human capacities to adapt, take advantage of opportunities, survive to surprises, and then bounce forward. The wisdom is to know that the world is what it is. Angelo described it. It is not the one we dream of, not a world of certainty, but a world of increasing uncertainty, a world where the impossible of today will become tomorrow's surprises. The awareness of uncertainty and the unpredictable is the first wisdom of the strategist. This is why strategic art is difficult. No strategic decision is trivial. None can be a truth, because in strategy it is not. Any strategic decision will remain based on assumptions, consolidated to the best of knowledge and rationality, but it can only be a gamble that will succeed only through initiative and commitment. Finally, strategic effectiveness and capacities to catch opportunities in a complex world are based on the confidence in human beings. Thank you very much for your attention.